All right, guys, thank you for showing up here. I got a question for you. How many of you ever heard the expression, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is? And how many of you guys have wanted more money for basically anything in your life? If you answered yes to either of those questions, then you're in the right place because today I'm going to share with you a very little known but powerful wealth building strategy that can completely change your financial future. We're going to talk about your wealth. We're going to go ahead and talk about how you can live like the wealthy by using their own techniques. And we're going to cover how you can keep control of your money, how you can build wealth, and how you can keep all the money in your family, how to pay off debt, expenses, and overhead by recycling and recapturing the money, just like banks do. Now, this is out of the box thinking. So I challenge you to keep an open mind because I'm not selling you anything. I'm simply teaching you a process and educating you on how that works. So as we go through this, you're going to have some questions. So go ahead and put them in the chat box so I can answer those for you guys. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So there's a really good quote by this guy, Will Rogers. Okay. Now, the quote is, the problem in America is not what people think they know, it's what they think they know that just ain't so. And it's so true because a lot of us have been taught something about money, how money works, that just isn't true. So I need you to keep an open mind because in this webinar, I'm going to be challenging the way you think about money and the way you've been taught about money, because what you've been taught just isn't true. So keep an open mind as we go through this. Now, I want you to think about this. Think about you've got 118-year-olds all gathered in a room. You ask every single last one of them at 18 years old, where are they going to be at when they retire? Every last one of them is going to tell you that they think they're going to be a wild success. They're going to be millionaires. They're going to be billionaires. Now, fast forward to when they are retired. The fact of the matter is, only 5 out of those 100 kids are going to be financially secure by the time of retirement age. That's crazy. How is that possible? We live in America, the land of the free, the wealthiest country in the world. How is it that only 5 of us out of 100 become financially secure by the time of retirement age? And it's because what we are taught. We are taught lies about money, how money works. So I need you guys to keep an open mind because, again, I'm going to challenge the way you think about money. Now, what I just gave you guys, 5 out of 100 people, that is a real stat. It's actually from the Social Security Administration. You can look this up. Only 5% of Americans are going to be financially secure, even less of them financially independent. All right. So what we're going to go over is exactly what the wealthy do and how they build generational wealth. Okay. Now, before we get into that, a lot of you guys follow me on social media. You might not know my whole backstory though. I come from a very lower middle class family. I was one of 7 siblings. And growing up, I heard all the time that we can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know, we'd go around the house and my parents say, turn the lights off. You know, we can't pay for those lights to be on all the time. Close the doors. We're not air conditioning the entire neighborhood. I came from a family that was very limited on their beliefs about money. I was never taught how money works. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I didn't even know how credit worked. Right out of high school, I maxed out a credit card, got late on the payments. My score was like a 200. And then I stumbled through my 20s, had probably at least 50 jobs. Okay. By 31 years old, I had to file for bankruptcy. It's 2016. I had $300 to my name. Couldn't afford the apartment my daughter and I were living in. At that time, I was a full-time single father. Couldn't afford to keep a roof over her head. So I had to move in with a friend, and all I could afford was $400 a month. Could barely afford that. Now, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I actually got my heart broken by my girlfriend at the time, ripped out of my chest, my heart, and stomped on the ground. I thought I was at rock bottom. And when you're at rock bottom, that's a place to launch from. So I started working on myself. I started making more money at work. I started maxing out my 401k. But you see, when you make more money at work, you pay more taxes. It's called bracket creep. I started maxing out my 401k. I started saving money in the bank. I started to become successful by most people's standards. But I was still broke. I was just over broke. That's what JOB stands for, just over broke. So 2019, October 2019, I walk into my job. It was October 8th, and I resign. I become a full-time real estate investor. And guys, I fell flat on my face, had no clue what I was doing. 2 months goes by, I didn't make a penny. And I'm this close to going back to my comfortable, successful job. I'll never forget my mentor at the time, Templeton Walker. He tells me, he's like, dude, you're a people person. Go where investors are at, make friends, be yourself, and you'll start getting real estate deals. So I started going to every meetup and I started getting deals. January 13th, 2020, I got my first real estate deal. And from January till March, I did 8 real estate deals with 0 marketing dollars. I was doing well. I was on pace to make about 200 grand. I had a net worth at the time of about $300,000. I had become successful by most people's standards. And March 2020, what happened? COVID. Meetups went away. My business went to 0 like that. So what did I do? I started working on me, started reading books, watching YouTube videos, and listening to podcasts. And I heard a podcast with Chris Noggle. He was talking about becoming the bank. I was blown away. Mind was blown on what was possible. So I started I started immersing myself in infinite banking. I started reading articles. I started watching YouTube videos, reading books. I was up till like 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, reading articles on my phone. My wife would wake up and be like, what are you doing? We got to get up in the gym in the morning. So guys, I immersed myself in it, and it has changed my financial future for myself, my wife, my daughter, and generations to come. Now I'm on a mission to teach as many people as possible about what has changed my life. So guys, it works for anybody. 6 years ago, I was dead broke, $300 to my name. I graduated high school with a D average. I'm nothing special. If I can do it, I believe anyone can do this. And it's not that difficult. I'm going to show you guys exactly how this works. And hopefully you guys get a ton of value from it. All right. So since we're going to talk about money, how money works and all that, I want you to understand one thing. What I'm about to go over with you is not a new concept. It's actually been around for a very long time. We're talking about several hundred years. And there's been people that have actually known about this that you guys probably know about. So, question for you. Who here has ever heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki? Everyone's heard of that book. That's one of the best books for financial literacy. Now, Robert T. Kiyosaki, he writes about this concept in his book, Second Chance. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Another guy that I know you guys have heard of, Tony Robbins. writes about this in his book, Money Master the Game. Phenomenal book. The holy grail of this concept, becoming your own banker. I read this book, my mind was blown. I've read the book cover to cover at least 5 times. And it's an easy read, it's only like 90 pages. Highly suggest you guys read these books, along with Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. That's by my mentor, Chris Nagel, and Brent Kessler, who is his mentor. And then there's also the Private Money Guide by Chris Nagel. So read these books, guys. These books will give you insight onto this concept and the fact that it can change your life. All right. So what we're going to get into now, real quick, is what you see on your screen here. This is a backward bicycle. I want you guys, when you have a chance, go to YouTube and YouTube the backward bicycle. You see, from a young age, we are taught how to ride a bike. We are taught when you hold the handlebars and you turn them right, the bike goes right. When you turn them left, the bike goes left. That's what we're taught. So we get on a bike and that's how it operates. But if you were to change just one thing about that bike, and that is that if you turn those handlebars right, the bike goes left. And if you turn the handlebars left, the bike goes right. How many of you think you could ride that bicycle? The answer is probably none. That video is hilarious. Watch that video. This guy tries to ride the backward bicycle. Can't get more than a couple inches. But eventually, he learns how to re-ride the bicycle. Your money is very similar to this. What I'm going to talk about today, guys, is simply changing one thing about money. That's it. Just one thing. But by changing that one thing, it's going to throw you off. It's going to be difficult because you've been taught your entire life something different. You've been taught a lot. But right now, guys, we're going to jump into exactly how this works. First, we need to talk about the mystery of money, what you've been taught about money. First off, what is money? What is the definition of money? The definition of money is simply a means of exchange. That's it. So if I've got money, I give money for phone, phone for money. If I have money, I go buy a car, I give money for car, I get the car for money. Money for house, house for money. It's just a means of exchange. Now, let me ask you guys this. What business uses compound interest? A lot of people think that banks use compound interest. That's not true. They charge interest, but they don't use it themselves. You see, for compound interest to work, money has to sit. And there is not one company, one bank that lets money sit. They move it. Yet we are taught to let money sit in the bank or sit in a retirement account. Yet the wealthiest companies, the banks that have all the money, they don't let money sit. They don't do what we are taught to do. As soon as you put money in the bank, they lend it out. And the way you can verify this is if you have $100, you write your name on it. They're not going to put that in the back with your name on it. And then when you come get it, it'll have your name on it. No, as soon as you put your money in the bank, they deploy it to make them more money. Okay. Now that we know that no companies, no banks let money sit, let's talk about, are your dollars worth more today or in the future? Hopefully you guys know they're worth more today. Because of inflation, your money will be worth less tomorrow, the day after, the day after. Your money will never be as valuable as it is today. Think about this. How many candy bars could you buy with $1 20 years ago? The answer is more than today. So your money is always worth the most today. But think about this. We are taught to not spend our money today. We're taught to save it and spend it later when it's worth less. Makes no sense. We've been taught lies. Just trying to get you guys to think about what really is happening and what you've been taught. Think about this too. Do taxes go up or down? They go up. When the tax code came about in 1913, the highest tax bracket, I believe, was 8%. The highest. That highest bracket now is over 40%. So taxes, they don't go down. They go up over time. But we are taught to avoid paying taxes now. That's why people love 401ks. It's tax deferred. So you don't pay taxes now when they're probably lowest, to pay them later when they're most likely going to be higher. It makes no sense, but this is, again, is what we've been taught. Now, think about this. We do things with money we would never do with things that money buys. Think about this. Would you go buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk? Consuming that milk or the bread? Absolutely not. You would not do that. Yet you do that with money. You take money, you put it into an investment, a 401k, an IRA, whatever, and you wait 10, 15, 20, 30 years before using it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, but my company gives me a match. They match the money. Think about this. If you go to the store, you buy a loaf of bread, you put it in the freezer, and you wait 10, 15, 20 years, you go open to eat the bread, it's freezer burnt, but now you have two of them. They're still worthless when you could have had the bread when it was its best. Again, I'm just trying to get you guys to think about what's really happening here. Now, what do you actually know about your retirement account? Really think about it. Your 401k, all that stuff. What do you really know about it? Who controls that money? It's not you. You give up control of that money before you even touch it. You get a direct deposit, and before the money goes into your account, the money for the 401k is held back. So before you even touch the money, you give up control of it. So I'm just trying to get you guys to think about how everything really works, how we've been taught. We've been taught to not spend money now when it's worth the most, not pay taxes now when they're probably the least, to spend the money later when it's worth less, to be taxed more, and we'll be taxed on the harvest. You should pay taxes on the seed, not the harvest. We are taught lies, complete lies. Now, what we're going to talk about today is spending your good dollars now, but giving you the ability to spend them and still grow wealth, extreme wealth, generational wealth, just like the elite do, just like the banks do. So after this webinar, guys, hopefully you understand how money actually works. And if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's talk about real quick how money flows. All right. So let's say that you're going to buy a car, all right, for $25,000. I don't want you guys to get hung up on the price. I'm just demonstrating a concept. The price is irrelevant. This method will work for a Ford Focus or a Ferrari. It does not matter, okay? But I want you to really understand this. If you understand this part, you will understand infinite banking at its core. So let's assume that you're saving money in your bank, okay? Your local bank, and I'm going to play your local banker Devin. Let's assume that you have $25,000 in your bank and it's earning you 4% interest. Now, I know your bank does not pay you 4%, but let's just pretend you found a really, really good bank. All right. Now, you come to your bank and you say, Devin, I want to take out $25,000 from the bank that's earning me 4% interest, and I want to go buy a car. What I would tell you instead is I would say, don't do that. Instead of taking the money out, I will give you a loan for $25,000. Use your money as collateral, and you'll pay me 6% interest for the loan. However, you will earn more by getting 4% interest than you will paying 6% interest. As the banker, am I being honest? Am I telling you the truth? The answer is yes. And it's really quite simple. The reason why is because of the difference between simple and compound interest. So if you guys can understand this, infinite banking is very easy. All right. So here's the thing. If you've got a car payment, $25,000, 6% interest for 5 years, so that's 60 months, you will end up paying $483.32 a month. This is just math. You guys can do the numbers. The numbers do not lie. So for 60 months, you're going to end up paying $28,999 for that car. Okay. Get this. Your $25,000 at 4% in the bank, your future value is $30,525. So you actually make $1,526. And that is because, again, the difference between simple and compound interest. On your car payments at 6%, every time you make a payment, your balance goes down. So you're paying less interest every single payment. On your money in the bank, your balance is going up. So you're earning more interest every single time. Plain and simple. You can earn more earning 4% than you will ever pay paying 6%. All right. So what we're going to talk about right now, guys, is the money multiplier method, infinite banking. All right. Now we're going to talk about the machine. All right. The machine that's going to keep your money flowing. That's going to keep the money coming back to you, staying within your family for the rest of your life. All right. We're going to talk about, if it would click here, we're going to talk about the fact that this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You are not going to get wealthy overnight. And if you do, you're going to lose it because you don't know how to keep the money. Think about pro athletes. They become very, very rich very quickly. And a lot of them become bankrupt very quickly after the money stops. And that's because they do not know how to keep money and how to keep it flowing in their favor. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about becoming a millionaire. All right. Everyone wants to be a millionaire. And pretty soon, millionaire is not going to be that good. You know, you're going to want to become a billionaire. But we're going to talk about how to get there. And it's not difficult. It really isn't. You just have to know what to do, and then you have to do it. All right. So let's jump into it, guys. We are going to first talk about the machine. The machine you're going to use is nothing more than a dividend paying whole life insurance policy with a mutually owned company. What you might be thinking is, why in the world would we use life insurance? Like when I first learned this stuff, I was like, life insurance? I don't need life insurance. I'm young, I'm healthy. I don't need life insurance. That's what most people think. However, we're going to use life insurance because it's what the wealthy do. It's what the elite do. It's what the banks do. Banks own more life insurance than anybody. They are the number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. They own billions and billions of dollars of life insurance. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and Google it. Google BOLI, bank owned life insurance. They own more life insurance than all of the land and buildings combined. And it's not like banks own crappy buildings. They own nice buildings and they own real estate, the land, in very desirable areas on corners where they're expensive lots, and they own the buildings. They own more whole life insurance than all that stuff combined. And why is that? Is it because they're stupid? No, it's because they know something that we do not know. And we also use life insurance because all of the growth is tax-free. You see, the tax code came about in 1913. Whole life insurance has been around since the 1700s. It predates the tax code. So all your growth, 100% tax-free. Oh, and also all of your growth is 100% guaranteed. So that's why we use life insurance as the machine to flow your money. All right. Now, remember how I told you guys that you can make more money earning 4% while paying 6%? You see, your policy is the same way. You take a loan from your policy and you're still earning money that you put in. So the difference is now you control both aspects, the loan portion and the savings account. You're in control of both. You're the bank. So let's jump into it. Let's go ahead and talk about how banks use this. Banks, again, are the largest purchasers of whole life insurance. So let's talk about how they use it. So imagine that you deposit $100,000 into the bank, and the bank pays you 4% for holding your money. Now, the bank does not hold the money, right? They immediately get rid of it. Because think about this. If the bank pays you 4%, your money is a liability to them because they have to pay you 4% on $100,000. So what does the bank do? They lend your money out. So let's go ahead and say the bank lends your money out on a house, okay, at 7% interest. Again, don't get caught up on the numbers, guys. I just want you to focus on the concept, what is happening, how the bank makes money. So they pay you 4%, but they lend your money out at 7%. Now they're in control because when the person that gets the home, they have to do a credit check. If their credit isn't as good, they charge more interest. They have guidelines in place. So they don't have very much risk, and they're using your money. So they have very little risk. So when they lend your money out, what happens? The person that bought the house gets the keys, and then the seller gets the money. What does the seller do? They don't put the money under their mattress. They put the money in the bank. So the money comes back to the bank. What does the bank do? They don't hold it. They get rid of it. They lend it out again. So let's say now they lend it out on a car, okay? They're going to lend it out at 8% because a car loan is a little more risky than a home loan, right? So it's going to be a little more interest. So they're going to lend it out at 8%. What happens? The money goes to the dealership. What does the dealership do? They take the money and put it back in the bank. They're not holding the money in the back of the dealership. No, it goes back into the bank. What does the bank do? They immediately lend it out again. This time, let's say they do it on a second loan on a house. So they've got a home remodel. Again, the bank is in control because if it's a second lien position, there's more risk. So the bank charges more interest than the first lien. Remember, the first lien was 7%, right? Now they're charging 9%. What happens though, as the money goes to the contractors, what do the contractors do? They put the money back in the bank. They're not keeping it in wads of cash in their backyard, digging up a hole and putting it in there. No, they put it back in the bank. Money is flowing into the bank and then out of the bank, back into the bank and out of the bank. It's just the flow of money. The more it flows, the more it grows. So now let's say that someone's racked up a bunch of credit card debt and they want to get a debt consolidation loan. It's going to be much higher interest because there's no collateral. Think about before, there was the house, the car as collateral, the house again. Now there's no collateral, so it's higher interest. Again, the bank is in control. They charge 12%. Now what happens? Person pays off the credit cards. What does the credit card companies do? They put the money back in the bank. The bank is always in control. And here's the craziest part. It's your money that they're in control of. Let's talk about this though. Let's talk about how much money the bank made. So on the house, they paid you 4, they made 7. So they have a 3% spread. On the car, they paid you 4, they made 8. So they got a 4% spread. On the home remodel, paid you 4, made 9, 5% spread. Debt consolidation, paid you 4, made 12, an 8% spread. So if you guys add those up, how much did the bank make? Most people would say that the bank made 20%. Problem is, that's not accurate. They made far more. Because remember, they're not using their money, they're using your money. The only money they have in this process is the interest that they're paying you. So 4%, they took 4% and turned it into 20%. That is a 500% return by using your money. It's crazy. The more the banks do this, the more money they make. And you can mimic the bank. You can do this with your money instead of letting them do it with your money. Now, if you guys don't believe me on that, what I just told you, go to Bauer Financial. You will see, you can look up any bank, your local bank, bank down the road. You can look up this year, last year, 20 years ago. You will see there's not a bank in the nation that makes less than 400 to 1,300% on the money you put there. It's crazy. So why let them do that with your money when you can do that with your money by simply mimicking what they do? Let's go ahead and show that. Let's talk about it. How you're going to do this. It's really quite simple. Let's talk about how people spend money and how you can mimic what the bank does. All right. Now, this is how most people spend money. This is an average American. Out of every dollar, average American spends 20 cents out of every dollar on automobiles. So we're talking about payments, gas, upkeep, etc. 30% or 30 cents of every dollar is on housing, right? So you got your mortgage payments, your taxes, insurance, things like that. 40 cents out of every dollar goes to everything else. So we're talking about travel, entertainment, food, clothing, all that. So that only leaves 10 cents out of every dollar for savings. And that's being very generous. Since the meltdown of 08, the average savings rate in America is right around 5 to 6%. So this is being generous. But the crazy thing is most financial gurus and financial advisors, CFPs, they will tell you, take your savings and go make a bigger return. But tell me, when you go to make a bigger return, what happens? You have more risk. And the older you get, how much risk do you really want to take? I'm 37 years old. I don't want to take risk now, let alone when I'm 67. So most financial gurus, they will tell you to take your savings and go make more money with it. Go get a bigger return, take on more risk. It doesn't make sense. It is backwards. We have been taught lies. So I don't want you to change anything about what you're doing. I just want you to control where the money's going. So think about this. Out of every dollar you spend, 20 cents of it goes to automobiles. Out of that 20 cents, 5 cents of that is interest. So what if you could just get that interest back? Instead of paying it to a bank, what if you could get it back yourself? So you got 20 cents of every dollar going to automobiles, 5 cents going to interest. If you take that 5 cents and just put it into your savings, you've now given yourself a 50% increase in your savings. So, but again, most financial gurus will tell you, go take your savings and make a return. Where can you make a 50% return without having ridiculous risk? You can't. This is no risk. This is simply just controlling who's getting the interest. That's it. Now, on your housing, 30 cents out of every dollar goes towards housing. Of that 30 cents, 25 cents of it is interest. So if you just take that and put it back to your savings, look at the difference you've made. Now, some people might be thinking, how could 25 cents of my housing be interest? That makes no sense. Go look at a mortgage statement, a 30-year mortgage. You will see in the first 7 to 8 years, 90% of it is interest. And the banks know this. They know that it's not about the interest rate. It's about the volume of interest. They know that most people do not stay in homes for 7 years. If they do, they're going to refinance them to take cash out to get a lower rate. Think about when the rates dropped to 1.9%. Everyone was trying to get refinanced. The banks were the ones winning. You're getting a low 1.9, but the bank is resetting the clock, having more volume of interest go to them. They're very smart. They're always in control. But we're taught that the interest rate matters. It's not about the rate. It's about the volume of interest. Okay? So if you've got everything else that you have in your life is 40 cents out of every dollar, about 5 cents of that is interest. So if you simply control where that interest goes and you get it back into your savings, look at the difference you've made, and you haven't taken on any more risk. You haven't had to work any harder, any longer, and you have not given up control of your money. You have control. That's what this is all about, guys. So next thing we're going to talk about, I'm excited about this because I'm a car guy. I've had far too many cars in my life, and I wish I would have known this a long time ago, but I'm going to show you guys how to get all of the money back on any car that you will ever buy, drive, and own. You heard that right. Every car you ever buy, drive, and own, you'll be able to get the money back for it. Let's jump into it. But first, let's talk about the machine, okay? The machine, you guys need to really just change your mindset about this. When people think about life insurance and they think about premium, they think of it as a bill, because most of the time it is. If you have home insurance, it's a bill you got to pay. If you have health insurance, it's a bill you have to pay. Life insurance is different. If it is structured correctly, it's a deposit. Because think about it, when you deposit money in the bank, you can go use the money right away, right? It's liquid. I've never met one person that doesn't want to deposit more money in the bank. If your insurance policy is structured correctly, it is exactly like that. It is a deposit because you can immediately use it. So you need to start changing the way you think about premium. You need to think about it as a deposit. So from now on, I'm going to say a deposit, not premium, because it is a deposit. You put it in, you can immediately use it. All right. I also want you guys to think about age. It does not matter. I've got clients that are 18 years old. I've got clients that are 68 years old. Does not matter. The only difference is the older you are, technically the less time you have to live, with all things considered. So that means less time your money has to grow. So the only difference is that your death benefit won't be as high. But the death benefit doesn't really matter. We're not doing this for a death benefit. We're doing it for cash value, control, being able to become the bank. So again, age doesn't matter because the only difference is the death benefit goes down the older you are. So let's jump into it though, guys. Let's show you how to get all the money back for any car that you'll ever buy, drive, and own. All right. In this example, we're going to go ahead and say you're planning to buy a car in the next 3 years for $25,000. Again, do not get hung up on the numbers. I want you to focus on the concept. This will work regardless of the numbers. This is just the example. So for the next 7 years, you're going to deposit $10,000 a year into your banking policy. Now at year 3, you're going to go ahead and buy your car for $25,000. Now, think about this. If you bought a car from a dealership, you would get a loan from the bank. You would pay that payment on time, without fail, every month, because you don't want your credit to go bad. In that payment to the bank is interest. So if you pay the bank interest every time you borrow their money without fail, you should pay yourself interest every time you borrow money from yourself without fail. So that's very important. So you buy a car for 25 grand from your policy. Now, you're going to pay yourself back just like you would have paid the bank back. So over the next 5 years, you're going to pay yourself $500 a month for that car, $6,000 a year for 5 years. And I'm just using 5 years because it's a very a common car loan term, right? So what this means is over 7 years, you have deposited $70,000 into your banking policy. You have paid yourself back $30,000 into your banking policy. So you have put a gross amount of $100,000. Remember, you use 25 to buy the car. So your net amount is $75,000 in the policy. But look at your cash value, $67,881. That means that you got back 91 cents out of every dollar that you spent on that car. And here's the cool thing. You still own the car. It's sitting in your driveway, paid off, free and clear. And you got 91 cents out of every dollar back on it. But I did not say how to get 91 cents. I said how to get every dollar back. So let's go ahead and show you how it gets even better. We don't drive cars forever, right? So after 5 years, you're probably going to want to get a new car. So year 8 through year 12, I'm just going to assume you're not depositing any more money into your banking system. Once you really understand it, you're never going to want to stop putting money in. However, to prove a point, let's say you never put another dollar in. You buy the car for $25,000 a year 8. Again, you're the bank now. So you got to be an honest banker. You have to pay yourself back just like you would have paid the bank if you would have borrowed their money. So you're going to pay yourself back again, $6,000 a year for 5 years. So that means that you have put in $30,000 into your policy and you borrowed $25,000. So that means that your net injection into your policy was $5,000. But look where your cash value is at, $91,473 from $67,881. That's crazy. That means that your policy's cash value grew by $23,592. And the only amount you put in net, $5,000. And now you've got another car sitting in the driveway, free and clear. Guys, this is incredible. This concept will work with anything. And there's only just 3 rules to it, okay? The 3 rules. Number 1, pay yourself first. We are taught to to take our money and pay everybody before we pay ourselves, right? Our cars, our housing, everything else, and then we're left with our savings. What I want you to do is pay yourself first, meaning put your money into a policy first, then spend money. Because once it's in a policy, it's guaranteed to grow even while you use it. So if it's guaranteed to grow tax-free, you should put as much as possible. The more you put in it, the bigger it gets. The more you put in it early on in your life, the longer it has to grow. So your goal should be to always pay yourself first. All right. The second rule, pay yourself with interest. That's the second rule. Again, we are taught to borrow money from other people, banks, family, whatever. And we are taught to pay them interest. If we pay them interest for borrowing their money, we damn sure better pay ourselves interest for borrowing our money. Because if we don't, we're saying that their money is more valuable, and that makes no sense. Our money should be the most valuable money we have. So always pay yourself with interest. And third thing is just recycle and recapture your money. Think about the bank. Remember, the bank lent money out. It came back to the bank. As soon as it came back, they lent it out again. It came back. You should always be doing that. Put money in a policy, use it to go make more money or to buy things you would have normally bought from a bank, and then just simply pay it back into your policy. Pay yourself back with interest. Get more money flowing back to you. Recapture and recycle your money. If you do that, you will never have even a dollar leave your family. Every time you spend money that is not in a policy first, that money's gone forever. You'll never get that money back. Worse so is you've lost that money's ability to grow for the rest of your life. So if you have $1 compounding for the rest of your life, it grows to be a lot more. So every single dollar you have, first put it through a policy and let it get recaptured. Those are the 3 rules. Now, guys, if this works for a car, what else will it work for? A boat, a house, a wine cellar in your house. That's what I'm doing right now with one of my policies. Our backyard landscaping, I used a policy for that. I'm the bank on that. I've bought a jet ski. I've bought a car for my mom. I bought a company vehicle for myself. I've done my daughter's braces through a policy. I'm the bank. It works for anything. And you can do the same thing. So let's go ahead and jump into another thing that you can do with infinite banking. This will blow your mind. All right. There's a big problem out there right now with debt. People have a lot of consumer debt because as Americans, we like to spend money. We like to spend money we don't have. So what do? We go into debt and we have to pay other people money, the bank, right? So I'm going to give you guys an example of one of our clients. This is a real client of ours. Had all these debts, as you can see on the screen, 9 debts: Discover, Lowe's, Nordstrom's, Wells Fargo, private loan, BMW, a boat, a condo, and a house. Was paying all this interest to these third parties, all this payments per month, $478,000 in debt, total payments of $69,000 a year, leaving his family forever. That's 69 grand he'll never get back, and 69 grand that will not compound for him for the rest of his life. Now, this was a chiropractor. He had all these debts and he had a savings of about $25,000 a year. That's what he was saving. His plan was to take that 25 grand and pay down these debts. That was his plan. That's most people's plan. They take the money they have and they pay off their debts. With his plan, he was going to get out of debt in 19 years. That's how long it was going to take. And to him, this was a good plan, get out of debt in 19 years. But we taught him how to change just one thing. And we were able to get this debt paid off a lot faster. like a fraction of the time. I'm going to show you guys exactly how it works by changing just one thing. And that's where his money goes first. The 25,000 he has, instead of paying the debts off, he's first just going to deposit it into his banking policy and then pay the debts off. Watch how this works. So year one of his policy puts in $25,000 and he's got cash value of $14,863 immediately in the first 30 days. So we had him take the $14,863, pay off the Discover, pay off the Lowe's, and pay down the Nordstroms. So now these two payments, Discover and Lowe's, he no longer has to pay to them. But remember, if you're going to pay someone else interest, you better pay yourself interest. So all we're going to do is that money he was spending with them, $161 a month and $287 a month. Oh, sorry. And $287 a month included 11% interest and 21% interest. So all we're going to do is take that amount and pay it back to him. He's going to keep it. So watch how this works. Year two, in this year, he's got $448. That's those two payments that he's now recapturing. He's recycling. He's keeping it in his family instead of it going to Discover and Lowe's. So year two, he's got $25,000 deposited into his policy. His cash value is now $16,571. And remember, he was paying himself $448 a month. So that comes out to $5,374. So altogether, he's got almost 22 grand. So what's he going to do now? He's going to take that, pay off Nordstrom's, pay off Wells Fargo, pay off his private loan, and pay down the BMW. So again, he's going to play honest banker. All the money he used to pay to them, he's just going to keep it coming back to himself. All right. So he's now got $1,917 that he's getting instead of the bank. He's being an honest banker. He's paying himself back just like he would have paid the bank. He's getting the interest that he used to pay to them. Okay. So year three, $25,000 in his policy. Here's where it gets good. Every policy has an efficiency point. You can see that his cash value is now higher than what he put in. After the efficiency point, when your cash value is higher than what you put in, the spread just keeps growing every year. It gets more and more efficient. So that's why you never want to stop putting money in, because if you can go put $25,000 in the bank and they immediately give you back $25,541, you would never stop putting money in the bank, ever. So remember, he was paying himself back $1,917 a month. So that's $23,000 a year he was recapturing. So altogether, he's got $48,545. Pays off his BMW, pays off his boat, and then pays a little bit off on his condo. So now, again, honest banker, he's going to recapture the money he was paying on the boat and on the BMW. That's now $3,600 that he's recapturing that he used to give to other people. He's keeping it now. So this is where you guys have to understand this is a marathon, okay? It is not a sprint. Now, think about year one, year two, and year three. He's deposited $75,000, right? These are rounded numbers, but year one, he took a loan for 14, year two, 16, year three, 25. So he's taking loans of 55,000, right? So how much does he have left in his policy? Most people would say 20 grand, right? Because he put in 75, he's got loans of 55. That's not correct. He still has 75 grand sitting there compounding. Because remember, he's not using his money. The money you put into a policy just sits there and grows and it compounds. It's collateral to get a loan from the insurance company. So he's just borrowing their money. His money's sitting there compounding and growing. All right. Still earning him that guaranteed tax-free growth. This is where you guys have to understand, again, this is a marathon, because this year, year 4, he's going to put in $25,000. Cash value is $26,304. Again, spread goes up. He's been saving and paying back to himself 44 grand. He's got 70,000 bucks. He doesn't have enough to pay off the condo. So nothing's really going to change this year. That's why, again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So take the 70,000, pay down the condo. Nothing's going to change with the cash flow. Still going to have 3677 a month that he's recapturing, 2,100 that he has to pay on the condo and the house. All right. Let's go into year 5. So year 5, $25,000 deposit, cash value is about 27,000, 44,000 in payment recapture. He now has 71,000 bucks, going to pay off the condo, pay down the house. Now that's another $879 that he does not have to give to the bank. He can recapture it. He's getting the interest. Okay. He is the bank now. So year 6, this is where it gets a little tricky. With policies, you can only put so much in them before they become taxable. So at this point, he can only put in 10,000 bucks as a deposit. He can no longer put in 25,000. So puts in 10,000, but his cash value is 13,000. If you could go to your bank and put in 10,000 bucks today and they would immediately give you 13,000, you would do that all day long. You would find 10,000 bucks somewhere, somehow, if you could get back 13,000 right away, right? So since he's only able to put in 10, what he does is starts another policy to avoid the taxation. This is why, guys, I have 9 policies personally, because I can only put in so much into one policy. Once I get to that point, I start another one. Once I get to that point again, I start another one. So you can have multiple policies. So he started another policy at $25,000, has a cash value immediately of $14,863. Remember, he's been paying himself back for all of the interest. So he's getting 54,000 and some change. Altogether, he's got 82 grand. Pays off the house. He now has $0 going to the bank, and everything is staying now in his family forever. He's not giving up control of his money anymore. And think about that. The original plan was to take the 25,000 in savings to pay off his debts. That was going to take 19 years. We just got him out of debt in 6.5. Didn't spend any more money, didn't work any harder, didn't take on any risk. All he did is changed where his money went first. He changed one thing. Remember, it's like the backward bicycle. We just changed one thing, and that is where the money went first. First goes into a policy, then pays off the debt. That's it. And by doing that, we paid off everything in 1/3 of the time. It's incredible, guys. Absolutely incredible. And the cool thing about our company is we teach the infinite banking concept. We set up policies and help you guys do the concept, because once the policy is set up, we don't just say, here you go, good luck. We give you what's called a debt map, or if you're trying to do something else with your funds, if you don't have debt, we're going to map out how to use your policy, just like we did for that chiropractor. So you're going to get someone that's there to help you implement your policy, instead of just setting it up and saying, there you go, good luck. We're here to help, guys. We are here to help make sure that you take back control of your money and help you become your own bank. All right. So every one of our clients, they get this debt map just like he got. Real quick, let's talk about the last thing. We talked about the machine. We talked about the fact that it's a marathon. Now let's talk about being a millionaire, right? Having that big goal. Let me ask you this. How do you eat an elephant? Some people know this answer, and it's one bite at a time, right? The man on top of the mountain, he did not fall there, right? It takes time. Like I said, it is a marathon, not a sprint. And it could take a few years to really get your banking system at its peak efficiency. I'm in my third year right now, and my policies are just now getting to the efficiency point. Everything after this is going to be crazy because the first 3 years, I used the policy so much that I accelerated everything. You can do the same thing, but you have to understand nothing worthwhile happens overnight. It takes time. Okay. This is nothing different. But what if you don't have any debt, right? A lot of people say, what if you don't have debt? Then you can do other things. Like I didn't have debt when I started my first policy. But what I did have is the ability to go do real estate. So you can use policies to go make more money. You can use policies to pay your taxes. You can use policies to take vacations, to do anything that you would normally use money from the bank. You can use your policy for that. All you got to do is those 3 rules: pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, and always recapture and recycle the money. As long as you do that, you can use infinite banking for anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Now, this is really cool. Let's talk about if the chiropractor continued to pay himself back on just the houses as he had promised to do to the bank. This is going to blow your mind. The condo payments were $879 when he paid him off. There was 251 payments left. That is $220,000 that he would pay back to himself. Now in the house, 1221 were the payments, 224 months. That's $273,000. All equals almost 500 grand that now he gets flowing through his bank instead of going to someone else's bank. But it gets better because remember, money you put into a policy, it grows tax-free. Now these numbers are off because this is an old slide, but shows 4%. It's a little lower than that now, but you get the gist. These numbers, 220,000 growing at that 4% gives you 344,000 that you get to keep. On the house, 405. That's $750,000 in your policy. Plus, you have the house, you have the condo, they're paid off. So then you can go sell them if you wanted to, take the proceeds, put it into more compound interest policies, and just keep everything flowing. Once you really understand this stuff and start using it and practicing it, the possibilities are endless. It is called the infinite banking concept for a reason. It is infinite what you can do. So now that you guys know this, everyone should do it, because if you don't do it, you are stealing from your children and your grandchildren. Think about it. Every time you spend $1 that does not first go through a policy, that dollar is gone forever. It'll never grow ever again. If you simply put it into a policy first, it's guaranteed to grow and compound for the rest of your life, even while you use it. And by the way, we never talked about this. One day you're going to pass away. It gives you a tax-free death benefit. So let's talk about what we did not really go over, right? Gives you a death benefit. We don't design these for the death benefit, but it gives you one nevertheless. And the way it works is incredible. The more money you put into a policy, the bigger the cash value gets, the bigger the death benefit gets. So I have policies where my death benefit starts at like $8 million. By the time I'm 70, it's up to $30 million. Because as the cash value grows, so does the death benefit. But we didn't even talk about it. We didn't talk about the loans. They never have to be repaid. You never have to pay them back. the insurance company will never ask you for $1 of those loans because they are an advance of the future death benefit. So if you never pay them back, it'll just get deducted from your death benefit. You should pay them back, but you never have to, because you should want your family to get the full death benefit. Now, we really didn't talk much about the internal values grow tax-free, 100% tax-free. So think about if you're earning 4 to 5% tax-free, that's like making 7 to 8% before taxes. So most people would like to make a steady 7 to 8% all day long. But where can you really do that without a lot of risk? So internal values, 100% tax-free. We also didn't talk about the fact that money inside your policy is exempt from judgments and liens in most states. So money that goes into a policy is protected. It is the safest place, in my opinion, to put money. Can't be touched by judgment or lawsuit. So every dollar you have should first flow through a policy, and then you should use it to either buy things you would have normally borrowed money for, or to go make more money and just constantly recapture the interest. So everyone knows this guy, Warren Buffett. He said if poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. That's so true. Like, how often do you study wealthy people? Now that you know what wealthy people do, what the rich do, all you got to do is just do it. I mean, Warren Buffett has his own insurance company, Berkshire Hathaway. So at the end of the day, guys, it is all about what you know. And once you know the truth, now you guys know the truth, it's all about what you do with it. All right. So last thing, I'm going to leave you guys with this. One of two things are going to happen to each and every one of us. Only one of two things on a daily basis. We're either going to live, and if we live for the day, are we better with or without a policy? Now that you guys know everything I've just showed you, we're better with a policy. Or we're going to die. And are we better with or without a policy if we end up passing away? Better with, because if we pass away and we have a policy, our family gets a tax-free death benefit. And think about it. If you're 30 years old, and let's say you're making $100,000 a year, and you pass away, you got a wife and a kid, or a husband, whatever. You pass away, and let's say you would have worked till you're 65. That's 35 years of at least $100,000 that they will no longer see. That's crazy. So we're 100% better off with policies, whether we live or we die. So that's it, guys. That's the webinar. I hope you guys got a ton of value from it. I hope that it really changes your guys' lives. It really does. And you're going to have access to a calendar, so you can book a phone call. It'll either be with someone on my team, or possibly it'll be with me. So if I end up talking to you, great. I look forward to it. If you talk with someone on my team, we're here to help. We're here to answer your questions, things that you may not understand still. And if you're ready, we'll get you set up with a policy. You don't have to pay us a penny. We'll never ask you for $1 to help you set up the policy. And like I said, once it's set up, we're going to actually help you start using it. So I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing day. Stay blessed. And thank you so much for paying attention. Appreciate you guys.